This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMudsta to get you 5% off anything on the site. You can also use the promo code MTGMudsta for 5% off your orders from Face-to-Face Games, Canada's largest Magic the Gathering store, with qualified orders getting free shipping Canada-wide. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game is featured in my studio, with Bryce, Kuzno, and Eric returning. Bryce is playing his Phelddagrif, Kuzno is playing Kwain, Itinerant Meddler, and Eric is playing Giada, while I'm bringing up the rear with Mistform Ultimus. Kuzno wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws, playing a Mistgate Pathway. Bryce plays a Vine Glimmer Snarl, revealing an island, and casts a Carpet of Flowers. Eric plays a Tap Demaria, passing to me. I draw and play a Swarmyard. Kuzno plays a Plains and has enough mana for Kwain. Bryce draws and plays a Plains. Eric plays a Reliquary Tower and has enough mana for Giada, passing to me. I continue to avoid playing islands, dropping a Rogue's Passage and tapping 2 for Swiftfoot Boots. Kuzno draws and plays a Plains. He then passes to Bryce. Bryce has a Forest for turn and casts Archaeomancer's Map. In response to the trigger, Kuzno casts an Aven Mindsensor. But Bryce still manages to find at least one Plains off his top 4. After that, Bryce passes. Eric has a snow-covered Plains, and he swings Giada at me, dealing 2. In his second main phase, he casts Righteous Valkyrie, which gets a +1/+1 counter from Giada's abilities it enters. He passes after that. I have an island for turn, and pass. During my end step, Kuzno activates Kwain, drawing us all a card and gaining us all life. Kuzno draws for turn and plays a Reliquary Tower. And Bryce gets to match it thanks to the map trigger, putting out his own Reliquary Tower. Kuzno then plays Strict Proctor and passes to Bryce. Bryce draws and gets 1 white mana off the Carpet of Flowers. He uses it plus a land to cast an Arcane Signet, and then plays an island and casts Keeper of the Accord. After that he passes, and during his end step, Eric uses Path to Exile on the Strict Proctor, and Kuzno gets to go and find an island. Eric plays another snow-covered Plains, and casts an Archangel of Thune, but I respond by countering it with Arcane Denial. Eric then passes, and Bryce gets a Soldier on his end step from the Keeper trigger. Eric and I draw on my upkeep, and I draw for turn, and play an island. I then tap enough for a Maskwood Nexus, and pass, while at the end of turn, Kuzno once more activates Kwain. Kuzno draws, and plays a Plains. And this lets Bryce put out a Forest into play. He then casts Elspeth Conquers Death, and exiles the Keeper of the Accord. Bryce draws, and makes 2 white off the Carpet of Flowers. He uses this to suspend a Chromatic Escape, and then casts Phelddagrif, and passes. Eric has another snow-covered Plains for turn, and casts Pristine Talisman, and then a Burnished Heart. Moving to combat, the Valkyrie goes at Kuzno for 3, and after that, he passes. I play a Wizard class in my main phase, and follow up with the Spellseeker, which unfortunately fails to find because of the Aven Mindsensor. After that, I pass, and Kuzno activates Kwain on my end step again. Kuzno draws, and Elspeth Conquers Death ticks up once more. He then plays a Riptide Laboratory, and activates Kwain during his main phase. This has us all drawing a card, and Kuzno follows up with Vanquish the Horde. Bryce responds by bouncing Phelddagrif to his hand, and gives me 2 life. Kuzno also bounces Kwain to his hand with the Riptide Laboratory, and after that, recasts Kwain and passes turn. Bryce draws and makes 2 with the Carpet trigger, using 1 of it to help cast a Coiling Oracle. The Oracle reveals and puts Omniscience into his hand, and he then plays a command tower and recasts Phelddagrif. Bryce then finishes things off with a commander sphere and passes. Eric has a plains for turn and casts an arcane signet and then recasts Giada. I display an island and cast a Merfolk Sovereign and pass. Kuzno draws, and moving to his main phase, returns the Aven Mind Sensor with the Elspeth Conqueror's Death, giving it a +1/+1 counter as well. He plays a Deserted Beach, and then casts Lightning Greaves, equipping it onto the Mind Sensor. He then swings it at Bryce for 3, and passes. Bryce makes 3 blue off the carpet after he draws, and uses it to cast a Tile Barracuda. He then plays a Savannah, and casts Omniscience. Bryce then sacrifices the Commander Sphere to draw a card, and with nothing else, passes. Eric plays a Snow-Covered Plains, and casts an Esper Sentinel. I draw, but can't find a land for turn, and Kuzno activates Kwain on my main phase to draw me a card, but I still unfortunately miss it, and then pass turn. On my end step, Kuzno casts Faithful Mending, but Eric responds by flashing in a Caged Sun before Kuzno sees any more cards. However, Kuzno has a Dovin's Veto in hand and counters it. Eric then flashes in a Bishop of Wings, and Kuzno then resolves the Faithful Mending, and we move to his turn. Kuzno draws and plays a Plains. He plays an Archon of Emeria, and Bryce responds by flashing in an Aetherplasm. Kuzno then moves through his phases to his end step, and I flash in a Gilded Lotus, not paying the one for Eric's Esper Sentinel. Bryce's Chromatic Escape comes off of exile and targets Kuzno so he can't attack him, paying the one for the Esper Sentinel trigger. He then draws and plays a Forest, but having already cast his 1 spell for turn, passes. Eric plays a Mutavault in his main phase, and then casts a Book of Exalted Deed. He then activates the Mutavault to have it become a creature with all creature types, and once that's resolved, activates the book and targets the Mutavault to put the counter onto it. Bryce responds to this though by flashing in an Azori's Predation. Kuzno responds to that by casting Mystical Tutor and puts Fascination on top of his library. He then activates Kwain to draw it, and I respond to this by flashing in my Mirage Mirror. Kuzno isn't done though, and bounces Kwain back to his hand with the Lab before Predation resolves, making Bryce 8 4/4 Beast tokens. The Beasts then fight and kill Mutavault before the book triggers, and Eric gets a 1/1 Spirit token from the Bishop dying, and after that, he passes. I draw and play a Myriad Landscape. I then cast Unesh, and Eric responds by flashing in a Shadow Spear. Kuzno graciously gives me the 4-0 split, and I gladly take the 4. I then play out a Seafloor Oracle, which now costs 2 less thanks to Maskwood Nexus, and gets me another Mini Factor Fiction, and this time I pick Eric. I take the pile that has some lands and ramp instead of Orvar, and I pass, with Eric flashing in Cleric class on my end step. Kuzno draws and casts Supreme Verdict, with Bryce responding with a Teferi's Protection. Kuzno's ready with this, countering it with a Mana Drain. Bryce then gives Eric 2 cards and me a card, bouncing Phelddagrif, and also flashes in a Dictate of Crufix. After that, Kuzno casts an Eidolon of Obstruction, passing turn. Bryce draws 2 from the Dictate and plays a Sun Titan, bringing back his Commander Sphere. He then recasts Phelddagrif and sacrifices the Sphere to draw a card. Bryce then plays a Rejuvenating Springs and passes. Eric draws his 2 and plays a Plains. He casts a Gauntlet of Power, naming white as it comes in, and plays Sephara. He then plays out Resplendent Marshal, passing. I draw 2, and have my Mirage Mirror become a copy of Omniscience. I use it to cast out an Arcane Signet, Sapphire Medallion, and Arcane Adaptation, naming Slivers. I then cast a Tribute Mage, going to get a Thought Vessel, which I cast, and level up Wizard class. I then cast a Sword of Light and Shadow, Gale Rider Sliver, Lord of the Unreal, and Master of Full Trident. Unfortunately, none of my creatures have haste, and after basically dumping my hand, I pass. Kuzno draws 2 and plays an island. He then plays a Fascination where X is 6, and we all draw 6. He follows up with Lavinia the 10th, and I activate Mirage Mirror in response to become a copy of Omniscience once more, and use my mana rocks to crack Myriad Landscape, going to find 2 islands. Kuzno then moves the Greaves over to Lavinia, and passes to Bryce. Bryce draws 2 for his turn, and makes 5 blue with the Carpet of Flowers. He then casts Memnarch. He follows up with a Soul Ring, Angel of Destiny, and Attempt with Discovery, but none of us take him up on it. This has Bryce grabbing an island from it, and he plays a Breeding Pool as his land for turn. He then activates Memnarch to steal my Mirage Mirror, and steals Kuzno's Lightning Greaves. He then moves him onto the Sun Titan, and recasts his commander, Phelddagrif. Once the Hippo is out, Bryce then steals Shadow Sphere as well, and he plays a Surtur Priest and goes to combat. He swings the Sun Titan and Angel of Destiny at Kuzno, who chumps the Sun Titan with the Eidolon. Bryce then plays Selvala and moves the Greaves to her, and taps her to parlay. This gets Bryce above 55 life to try and kill Kuzno at the end step, but Kuzno reveals and miracles Terminus to wipe the board. Bryce then activates Phelddagrif to return it to his hand. Once the board wipe is resolved, Bryce then recasts Phelddagrif and passes. Eric draws his 2 and plays a Mana Crypt and a Plains. He then casts a Starnheim Aspirant and then a Land Tax. He recasts Giada and then an Angel of Jubilation and an Angel of Vitality. He then offers me a Tenuous Truce and follows up by playing Feldar Sovereign, passing. I draw and play a Relic of Progenitus. After that, I pass, with Eric and I both drawing from the truce. Kuzno draws and plays a Flooded Strand, which he sadly can't crack because of the Angel of Jubilation. He casts a Fumigate, and Bryce once more bounces a Phelddagrif, giving Kuzno a card for his troubles. Eric responds with the Flawless Maneuvers, which Kuzno in turn counters with a Render Silent. The board then gets wiped, and Kuzno gains 5, and then cracks the Strand, shocking and Hollowed Fountain, and taking 3. He then plays an Arcane Signet, and Flumph, and Kwain, and passes turn. Chromatic Escape returns, and this time chooses Kuzno, and then Bryce draws 2. He then plays Thrasios, and plays out a Mystic Sanctuary. Bryce then casts an Isochron Scepter, exiling Dramatic Reversal, and activates Thrasios a bunch. He goes until he hits an Approach of the Second Sun, which he casts, and uses Thrasios more until he hits it, to recast it and win the game. Game review time. So I don't think I've actually seen very many Kwain decks in action, and Kuzno had actually won earlier with this deck quite aggressively early on, so it was interesting to see his long game plan. It seemed to mostly be a lot of stack/denial pieces, while he's able to wait it out and assemble his combo pieces. Phelddagrif is always one of those weird commanders where you're not too sure if they're going to be playing some kind of secret combo deck or if it's a group hug deck. In this case, Bryce actually kind of played it in both ways, activating Phelddagrif's abilities to buy favor with his opponents and at the same time saving it over and over again until he was able to win with Approach the Second Sun. Eric's Giada deck is actually a lot more explosive than this one, and I'm not too sure if I've edited the game that I'm thinking of, but it might be up as a Studio Slam one. What I'm trying to say is that Giada is actually very, very explosive, and the fact that Mono White now has a commander that is basically a mana dork seems fantastic. It's kinda cool to see Mistform before I added a bunch of my new cards from Forgotten Realms, Battle for Baldur's Gate, Commander Legends, or whatever you want to call it, but there's still some classics that are always good, like Wizard's Class, and the Tribute Mage line, allowing me to find artifacts of specific CMC, which in this deck I built around. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.